coming, Isadora Franca.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. I told you I love podcasts, so just knowing that I'm on one right now is pretty cool.
This better be your top 5.
It's better.
In your
oh yeah, in my element is my number one. No, but I thank you for having me here, and I'm excited to see this come.
Of course. You grew up here, right?
I grew up in South Florida.
Okay.
I would say, yeah.
But born in Brazil.
Yes, I came when I was 4 years old.
What part?
Goiânia.
Goiânia.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of Goiânians around.
Is that coast? Is that
That is
like the inside of Brazil, like the
yes,
inskirts?
It's by the. Oh my gosh, this is like horrible for me to say. As you know, I'm very Americanized, but it's not on the coast. It's like it's central. It's central. There's no beaches. It's very very homey. I went back actually for the first time. It had been 17 years since I've gone back, and God. I went back and I stayed for 27 days, and it was the best one of the best solid 27 days of my life. Just to be there with family and seeing where I, came from. And I was in the same house of where I had footage of me when I was like 2 years old.
Roots, essentially.
Yeah, that was
your
so precious to me. Just seeing my family and my cousins and, the joy that they had there.
You come from Brazil and you come here straight to Florida. Your family does. Or you go somewhere else. You basically grew up here, no? You were telling me?
Yeah. I basically grew up here. I moved around a lot. I went to 3 different high schools. Which was like always so normal for me. Now that I'm older, I'm like, man, it would have been pretty cool to stay in one high school,
So you were always forced to make friends.
Yes. I have definitely kind of been around this area a lot.
Representation, at least for me, means a lot. I love this country. I'm an American, but I'm also a Mexican American. My parents are Mexican, but representation means a lot because it reminds me of where I come from and my roots.
We get very caught up here. One thing I realize is how quick the system here is in America. It's very fast-paced and
it's true, because here's a misconception I tell people. Even people that move from... People don't move away from their countries for another reason, but because they see that there's opportunity here.
Yeah.
But as much opportunity there's here in America, it's a struggle. Like, it's... like, if you don't work... Essentially, like, if you're not grinding or making ends meet, making it happen, you're not going to make ends meet. So how do you slow down from a life like that where you go back home and you're like, wait, life is simple.
Yeah.
You eat essentially what you need to 3 meals a day, breakfast.
Yeah.
Whatever your cafezinho.
It's priorities, like the fact that it's fast paced, we don't, it's hard for us to stay in the present. Like, just be in the very present right now. What does that mean? You're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about the future. Like, you can't. Everything is essentially the present. The present is a foundation. You're never gonna be in the past no more, and in the future can only come, in due time. But it was so crazy. I was in yoga the other day, and we're in hot yoga, so the room is like boiling. You're sweating.
That's intense. I don't even know if I can stretch like.
All right, let's get you started, Zeke. Let's get you started.
All right, we need to call the ambulance.
A little bit each day. Just stretch a little bit each day. Because you go 2 years later, you're like, dang, I did not even spend 5 minutes stretching.
But you were in yoga?
Yes. I'm just like, let me take this opportunity to encourage Zeke to stretch.
I've been running, so
good.
That's
good.
been 2 weeks straight. Head
Ooh,
on.
there you go.
Shout out to the coffee that wakes me up.
Awesome.
And to my car that drives me.
Yeah, to the car that drives you. So I was in yoga, and the girl next to me, had her... I think that there should be no phones allowed in the room, right, before going into yoga. But she had the phone in front of her the whole time, and there was, a couple minutes throughout the class where she was on it, but I had, gazed over, and she was on Instagram story, okay? We are in the middle of a lunge position, like bent forward, like a halfway lift.
Yeah.
And I turn, and she's scrolling through Instagram story. And that one hurt me. I'm like, we are in yoga. Like, this is meditation. This is like be in the very present moment.
Enjoy the moment. Like,
yes,
you're
be
here
in
for a
the
reason.
present. And you're over here like on a social media world. That took an addiction to a whole nother level for me. But you know what I thought? When I got in the car, I was like, you know what? That's what we do all the time. Like, if we're driving and then on social media.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be in the present moment. We're supposed to be driving. If we're with a friend and we're on social media, you're not really in the present moment. You're not with your friend. You're telling your friend that social media is more important than that very present moment. You know, so although I did judge that girl in the yoga room, we do this every day, like no matter what that looks like. So it's very hard for us to be in the present moment because we want to live in this like virtual world, which is essentially like of course there's benefits to it. Of course I'm thankful that we have this platform, but I think so many times it strips away of our ability to enjoy exactly what's in front of us. Like, just say no to the phone. It's just something that strips us away from me in the present moment.
Obviously, you want those memories to last, and you want to look at a picture, remember it. I'm that guy that's always trying to capture the moment.
Yeah.
But you miss the actual moment. You miss a joke. You miss whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that was just cool. I mean, we're talking about the present.
Yeah.
But I met you, was it 5 years ago?
About
6 years ago, 2015-ish, through our friend Kelly.
Yes.
Kelly Haluch. Shout out Kelly. We went to high school together.
I love her.
She's out in the West Coast.
Yes.
No.
She is
Center,
in
Florida.
What? She's in Texas now.
Texas, Dallas, Texas. My best friend lives in Dallas. Married, doing weddings, I think now. She's doing amazing things.
Yeah.
Met you through her. You were doing ministry at the time, right?
I was doing ministry.
You were working in church, not working for the church, but doing, serving a lot of church.
Mm-hmm.
And then disconnect, reconnect, and you're singing.
Mm-hmm.
And then time goes by, then you have a photography business. What happened in that, like,
right?
Because I didn't even, we would have conversations, but you never.
Yeah.
Kelly, I remember, was a singer. I was
yeah.
leading youth ministry at the time, but I remember you guys going down there and her releasing her EP, and then hindsight. Obviously, now we're gonna get more in depth on what you've been doing, but hindsight, I'm like, man, where was all this? Like,
so with singing, I have had that desire since I was little. Like, from what I remember, being 10, 11 years old, just singing to myself in my room and, putting the little webcam on and recording myself. And I kept that such a secret because I was embarrassed. I wasn't confident. It was such a sacred place for me. And I stayed in that as long as I could. And I didn't want to, though. There was a time where I was like, I need to make this public. I want to share. I love this so much. It makes me feel a certain way. I want to share it, And, 13 years old, still in my room. 14, still in my room. When I had met you and Kelly had been asked to do worship, that was a place that started, that was something that had started for me first, was worship, having dreams of just worshiping and singing in church and leading in church. And I would act as if there was a church in front of me, and I would, go crazy.
Still in your room?
In my room.
Okay.
Sometimes I went to the living room if there was nobody home. I loved when no one was home because that meant concert time.
That meant you're gonna do what you gotta do and express yourself.
Exactly. It was just me and God, and that went on for a while. So when you had to ask Kelly, deep down I'm like, man, I wish he had asked me. I'm like, how's he gonna ask? Like, I don't talk about it, and I just it just simmered there in my heart for so long. And I think it was really when I went to Georgia that I heard, I just kept hearing, you gotta do it afraid. The fear is not going to go away. God. You got to do it afraid. And I talked to the pastor there, Pastor Chino, and next thing you know, I'm on the team and I'm singing, and that was not an easy shift, okay?
Really? So you went from never singing to automatically you're in the public eye of.
Yeah, well, before that church, I was in a church here in Miami, and I had been on the team, but it was never really solo singing. It was just, getting warmed up and all. And then when I went there, I was like, all right, you're leading. And when I tell you that I would have nightmares every night before the service, I would have nightmares that I would start and everyone would leave. The mic wasn't working. Wow. It was so much fear. And how many times did I want to say, I'm sick, I can't make it. I'm not feeling this right now. I'm way too nervous. But I kept hearing the voice, you got to do it afraid. You got to do it afraid, or you're not going to step over this. This rock, you're making the rock a lot bigger. Okay, this rock is a pebble in reality.
Yeah.
I was making this rock like a mountain, and you just got to step over it. And so every Sunday morning I went, and it was amazing. The second I started singing, everything went away. Like, I was in the moment, the fear went away, all those thoughts went away, the sweat that would consume me before singing. I would have,
the shivers,
the bathroom, breaks. I went through all of it. But the second I started singing, it was like this amazing presence of a moment. And, I had done that, and I had always wanted to release music. I've had been writing for a long time, and that was always my heart. Is I never really was out there covering songs. I think I just always had the focus of writing music and releasing it, and I believe everything happens in the right timing. Sometimes I ask myself, man, why did I not release it before? Why didn't I release? But I don't stay in that for long, because I believe I'm a believer that things happen in the right timing, as long as your heart is right and you're always kind of going for it. And I finally released my song called The Deal.
The Deal.
Yes, in May. And
so fire. So dope.
Thank you.
And just going back to what you were saying, so essentially your room was like a cultivation of creativity. It's like storing ideas. It was like a storeroom and a dream room for you to then where I see you now. Which you just said, you're writing music and you release a single, The Deal, which that was a big deal as well on my end to see you go through that process. I had the honor and the privilege of being in some of those sessions, trying to give ideas in whatever way I can.
That was awesome.
But more than that, I mean, it was just awesome to see you again, because you're such even seeing you there create, I can tell the care you had for what you were doing and the excellence that you wanted to do it.
Oh yeah, it took so long.
certain you're such a perfectionist. You're like, wait, that we would hear it.
No one would hear it.
We would hear it, and I was like, yo, that was dope. That was, and you're like, no, I missed this melody in this part. I was like, okay, but seeing that process and you battling still with the I guess the fear of I want this to come out good. But also, I'm gonna do it regardless. So as many takes as it takes me to do this, I'm gonna make it happen, and I'm gonna release this single. Yeah. And you did. Yeah. You did, which was
so
insane.
Fun. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. It took me very long. I just am so appreciative of everybody involved, because it was imagine you're holding something so precious, and other people want to hold it with you. There's nothing more important than that. So I'm so thankful for the team that helped me. I'm thankful to have been able to do it. And now I want to keep creating. I want to release another one before the year ends.
You're always constantly writing though, right?
I am constantly always writing, always recording. I just had to narrow it down to one song that I'm going to release before an EP. So I came with the song, and now I just have to go through that process all over again, but better, because I took a lot of mental notes, and I learned a lot from that first.
What got you to actually say, you know what? The same thing that got you to step up on that stage and lead worship, when you were saying that was a big transition. What then got you to do, you know what? I'm going to release a single. I don't care.
Well, for me, I would see a lot of artists, and I just loved that they did it, right? And I'm like, man, what if there will be other people that would love that I just did it? Not that I would do it for other people. At first, I really tried to separate what am I doing for myself and what am I doing for other people. I knew that I wanted to do it for myself, right? But then it's I needed a why. I can do it. I can completely release a song and have 0 people listen to it.
But what's the reason why I'm doing
right?
it?
But why am I going to actually go through with it? So, I felt really good listening to certain music. I would laugh. No, I wouldn't laugh. Would I laugh listening to a song? I don't know. I would cry. I would feel all the feels, right, while listening to a song that I really love. And if it made me feel that way, I wanted to release something that would make someone feel a certain type of way as well. So that was my why. I found my reason, and I just, said, okay, it doesn't matter. I would tell myself, it doesn't matter if only 5 people listen to it or if only 5 people like it. The matter is that I just want to release it, right? And I have no pressure. I'm not signed to anything. It was literally
your own investment.
It's my own time, my own investment, my own like creativity along with other people on the team, and I just said I'm gonna have fun doing this. There's no pressure. So
you hit on so many good points there, which is insane. Like I'm just like just on a process standpoint, you hit on the why. Like you had to find your why. I mean, anyone can do anything.
Yeah.
But what does it mean to me? Why am I doing this? And the moment you find your why, the purpose behind, okay, why do I want to release a single? You're like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And you said I'm gonna have fun doing it. Same thing with this. I mean, the podcast. I remember you even sending me a text in the middle of it, like, "Hey, are you still doing the podcast?" You told me I was gonna be one of your guests. What's up?
Yeah, no, because I know that's a thing.
And you're like, and I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm like, of course I'm gonna do it. I'm just, I need to buy equipment. I'm like saying,
you're like, calm down. Accountability. That's all I wanted.
You were keeping me accountable, but I'll be a liar. I would be 100% liar if I didn't tell you there was doubts in the process of that. Right. Why I was still even had this idea. I was like, man, should I even do? Like, I already knew my why. Like, that's why the whole reason why I even put out a video in the beginning, but there was doubts. It's like, should I even still do this? Like, it's gonna take X amount of time. It's gonna do this.
The whole reason why I didn't sing for so many years is because I had literally a blockage, and I think more than anything it was a mental blockage.
Wow.
But when people asked sing, I couldn't. I physically could not. Although everything in me wanted to, I couldn't. And so that blockage was there for so long, and that blockage, I'm human, right? So the blockage doesn't go and drift into space once I decide I'm going to sing, I'm going to release a single. That only means I'm finally, being courageous. Like, I'm taking courage. Doesn't matter what it is that I'm feeling inside. Doesn't matter how long it took me, but that blockage, like, it kind of wants to always come back, and it wasn't necessarily physically anymore. I would sing. When people asked me to sing, I would do it. That wasn't the problem. It was a mental blockage. Like, oh man, are people really even going to receive this the way that I want them to? Is this a good idea? Like, how there's so many people out there releasing music. Like, why am I going to just be another one? Wow. Right?
We can all say that.
Yeah. It's just like but there's room for everybody. And it's going to keep multiplying, and you don't want to be behind. The wave is going to go on with or without you, and you want to be part of that wave. You can't say there's people doing this and people doing that. Good. Let them inspire you. Let them motivate you. Wow, another person went ahead and did this. Good. When is it going to be your turn? When
are you going to do?
When are you going to do? When is someone going to look at you and be like, wow, they did it? And I think for so long I had that blockage, and that blockage tried to come back, but I would always just kind of kick it away because I was so focused. I had my thing already. I even got to the point where I was like, I don't care if no one listens to it. I'm doing this for myself. Whatever comes extra is a benefit. Right? So I think I had come to a strong mental standpoint at that point when I decided to do it. And I knew that everything negative coming to my mind after that was just that blockage, that old blockage wanting to come back.
You pass through your mental blockage. You go through the doubt. But again, the question you're telling yourself is, if I don't do it now, then when? Mm-hmm. These ideas, these dreams that I've had, they're gonna stay in here if I don't get past that fear. Mm-hmm. So you even doing that, I think, was I mean, on my end was insane. But just to see the celebration of your friends too when you released it, and the people, even when you were starting to you started posting these little snippets on Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. Like you singing. And I remember people going crazy, like, "What? I didn't know you."
That was huge for me.
No, but that was that was dope because it was actually good, though. I mean, on your end, you're probably like, I don't know if you were nervous to post those snippets or not.
I would delete them.
but I was like, yo, like, I didn't know Isa can sing. Obviously we have mutual friends. I'd be like, yeah, like, yo, she's a beast. And even while you were recording yourself, I mean, we were in a recording studio and people would come in and just like, yo, like, she's got it, like she's got it, and
that means a lot.
Obviously, you don't need to be validated once you know your why, once you know why you're doing it. But that validation and that encouragement, I think, goes a long way. So for you to do that and to see where you're at now, where you're continuing to work on music, you're gonna release a single, so be on the lookout, guys. And I think that's I think that's a part of the journey that is important. You know, you're going through it. You already have a following. People are expecting, you know, for you to continue to do it. But more than that, you're enjoying making it. I mean, I always see you working on something. I don't know. So you're always cooking something up. So it's dope. Photography. Where the heck did that come from as well? I mean, I had no idea you were even into that. Was that an ATO when you moved? Or
well, it was, but it wasn't. It started in ATO physically, but my dad always had a camera with him, and I would always kind of take it whenever I got the chance and shot around. And I always found it fascinating, you know, the whole capture a moment and just create something. But I never really picked it up and ran with it. It's funny because what I'd mentioned when I was here in Florida, and I was very involved in the church, and I didn't do it because the moment that I wanted to do it, I thought, there's so many photographers. Let me not.
No, but it's the reason I'm asking you this, and the reason I'm so interested in your story is because when I met you, you were completely, these things were out of sight from my end. Obviously, you knew in your room what you were doing and getting inspired by, but on my end, like, you were not known for that, nor were you telling people, hey, I take pictures on the side. Yeah. Or, hey, I like, so for me to see you now, the story behind it, I'm like, where did that come from? So you said your dad had always a camera around him.
Yeah, my dad always had a camera, and I just always liked it, you know. It was always all right. It was never just like an object. It was something I always looked at it double, but I never did anything because of that whole reasoning. But when I went to Atlanta, I was working from home, and life slowed down a lot over there. I had just gotten married. I moved there. You know, we were part of this church that just planted. I was in worship, and I, you know, essentially, like, I didn't really have so much going on. And we had this camera that we bought a couple years back, and I just thought, let me just do this in a little something. So I hit up this girl that her name is Judy. She's great.
Shout out Judy.
Yeah, I hit her up because, you know, I had noticed she was doing a lot of shoots in the area in Atlanta. I said, hey, you know, you mind if I do a portrait session of you? And in my head, I'm like, how is she gonna trust me? Like, I'm a random person on Instagram, and
that
she's
was
like,
off the jump, you just having your camera.
And she's like, sure, let's do it. So we met up. She came to my house, like, and the whole time in my head, I was like, how do I try to act as normal as possible? Like, I want her to know she can completely trust me. But she came to my house. We did a little creative shoot there. We went around town, and I had, you know, there I am with my camera for the first time, like, actually doing a little session, and I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed the process, the editing, the connection between the photographer and the person in front of the camera. And I signed up to a Facebook group place for second shooters, and I started shooting weddings. And shout out to Miles, because Miles was the guy that I did a lot of second shooting with.
Amazing.
And yeah, it was just really cool to just be in that. And we moved back from Florida, and I said, okay, what can I do with this? You know, I have to keep going. And I just kept doing more portraits, more family, more lifestyle. And just recently, I'm shifting my photography because I kind of noticed that I wasn't finding complete fulfillment in that, because I noticed that it's because I could not have complete creative control. And it took me a while to figure that out.
Yeah.
And now in my head, I'm like, what can I do that I can have creative control, you know, and kind of just build this image and cultivate it, and then deliver it as I had it in my head.
Your vision. How can you make your vision come to life?
How can I do this? And so slowly, literally in the process right now, I'm just in the between my aha moment to actually, you know, expediting it and making it happen. So I'm kind of leaning more towards brand photography and social content.
Dope.
Because as you know, social media and everything is just so out there right now, and people are needing social content. And so right now I'm kind of gearing towards that. I'm reaching out to people, trying to get clients so that I can say, hey, I can create something beautiful for you, and I can create social content for you. So I'm kind of shifting towards that right now.
From your standpoint, you were saying you were doing a lot of, obviously, lifestyle, a lot of portrait stuff, which is great. But on your end, it's like, no, I want to do things for brands, but I also want to put my vision into that. And I think it's cool. And and seeing your growth in that, I think has been amazing on my end. Just like, man, like Isa from 5 years ago, it's like we weren't the best of friends, but I mean, you're doing music, releases a single, she starts photography, and now you're telling your story and how that happened, and then it's like, well, now the vision is this in the midst of all these other things that you got going on. So what does it, how do you cultivate ideas when it comes to that stuff? Like, how do you overcome the typical writer's block, you know, or the typical creative blocks? Do you travel? Do you go to a coffee shop? Do you just make things happen, close yourself in a room? It's like, no, I got to come up with something. Like, what's your process like when it comes to that?
My process, I don't have a, step by step. For me, I just kind of try to find inspiration and everything. And the second that I hear something, a word maybe, or a sentence, I write it down. I have to write it down, because sometimes I have done this in the past where I'm like, I'll remember this. It's so important. It's so great. I'm going to remember this. 20 minutes later, I'm like, what did I think about? That was great, but I forgot it.
What's my password again?
Exactly. So one of the things, like, for example, this isn't really like brand material, but, I was in the airport, we're on the way back home, and I just heard in my head, protect your happiness. And I said, okay, let me write this down. Protect your happiness. How do we treat things that we protect? We know where it is at all times. We know what it means. We know its value. It doesn't just get tossed in other people's hands. Like, whatever it is that we're protecting, that's ours to hold.
Yeah.
We're accountable to that. So I had to write protect your happiness. And with that, it kind of translates, okay, how can I make that into like a visual appearance? Like, how can I have people not only listen to that, but see that? And I kind of do that with things around, where I can look at a window, outside of this building. I can look through a window and say, what's the next step after that? It's not just a window, eyes are the window to your soul. Like, kind of just don't see things as it is, go into it. Into it and explore it. Treat it like a house. A house is not just the outside, but there is rooms inside. There are curtains. There is a kitchen. There's bedrooms. There's so much more. You got to open the door to things that are in front of you. And the only person that is able to explore that in the way that you explore it is yourself. Yeah. Like, don't allow other people to explore things for you. That's such like a precious thing that we have, our creativity, our mindset, our perspective. And a lot of times we allow other people to have perspective for us. We don't even have an opinion anymore, because we're constantly just going by what other people say, right? So it's just very important for us to have your own perspective, have your own creativity. And I'm not here to say that what you create is original, because as we all know, it is not.
This is the most original thing you ever seen in your life.
This is like the only time you've ever seen this or heard this. No, but I think that it does becomes unique, because it's, independent of you.
Finding inspiration in the little things, in your unique view, and your unique, that's how essentially you process things, and what inspires you to then write, what inspires you to then create a visual.
Pinterest, I mean, let me not take away Pinterest. Pinterest is amazing.
Mood
boards all day.
Yeah. That's dope. Any goals for this year, Isa? Anything you're looking forward to? I know you talked about music, you talked about your photography, but apart from that, anything else you got going on?
Yeah, I want to quit my 9-to-5. That is a huge goal, I say, in December. So keep me accountable of that. I already told my therapist.
You're like, this is happening.
I told my therapist, I said, no matter what, I'm gonna be out of there. You just gotta set a crazy radical goal. But also, I want to get back to, what I realized, that when I was younger, I had so many dreams of starting nonprofits and starting things that would help people. I think back then it was people that have addictions, drug addictions, and and like people that are homeless, and kids, and all these people that are in poverty, or just mental like obstruction. I had that so deep in my heart, and then I actually was thinking a few days ago, I was like, where did that go? Like, I've become so consumed by making it happen for me that that kind of just faded away. And I'm like, that's not me, that's not what God this is not all God intends me to have. There's a reason he had put that in my heart. So, I definitely, a goal of mine is to just kind of see, what does that look like? How is it, can I start something that is going to reach out to people in the corners, of life, and that I'm not only giving time for myself or for my little world.
Yeah.
I definitely want to help other people in their worlds. And, I had just started therapy. I think I definitely want to talk about this, seeing the backgrounds of your family.
Yeah.
And being okay that you're a little bit like your mom, you're a little bit like your dad.
Yeah.
Like, they're bad parts, right?
Yeah.
And like, a huge inspiration for me is my mom, because she, there was so many things she couldn't do because of her circumstances. And, as amazing as she is, she has some, like, obviously qualities that are not so good. And I realized, I have had those qualities too, like starting something and not finishing it, like just being too emotional that kind of blinds you.
Yeah.
And so, as much as I reflected with that, I wanted to find myself in therapy and say, I am like this, I am like that, I'm like this. Like, you have to confront your demons. You have to confront the parts of you that are no longer beneficial for you, and my mom just started therapy now at 53 years old, and it's something that you have to confront, because these things start making you physically ill if you don't start focusing and prioritizing the things of your past and your family, curses and trauma and all those stuff. You have to confront it, because it will make you a better person for yourself and for the people around you. The little things, the big things, but you have to confront it,
That was a lot to intake, but a lot of value in that, in mental health and self-awareness, being self-aware of things that maybe your upbringing and the way we react to certain things, why our personalities are this way.
Yeah.
It's so important. And a reoccurring theme in this podcast with everyone that I talk to, it's impact. It's beyond me. Like, I'm not just writing music. Yeah, I'm having fun with it. But I want impact at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's always been about people. It's always been about impact. Like, we don't do this for the hype. The moment you start doing for the hype, you'll get there, but there's no longevity in hype. It's just a moment. So to hear that from you, and to hear not only the highs, right, but also, hey, I'm also doing therapy. I'm also taking care of my mental health, because
right.
I can only create from who I am. So if I'm addressing who I am, then whatever I create, whatever stems from that, is going to be something beautiful. Not that there's madness behind that, right? There is. But you're going to create a better world around you and for those around you, like you said.
Yeah.
To wrap it up, any advice you would give to anyone?
Yeah, my one piece of advice would be, allow your future self to talk to you, right? And your best version of your future self. What is he or she saying to you? What is your past self saying to you? Like, you're in your present right now, but you're stuck. You don't really want to keep going. You feel like you're inadequate. You feel, right? We feel so much. But what is that future person in front of you saying? No. Like, we're here now because you kept going. We're here now. Like, look around you, be at one with yourself so much that you have a future self. Like, talk to yourself. The person that's going to motivate you the most is when you look at yourself in the mirror. I started doing that, and it's weird at first. It's weird at first. You're looking at yourself in your eyes, and it gets deep and weird, but it's so encouraging. Like, look at yourself and see someone 10 years older, 20 years older, 30 years older. Does that person say, oh man, I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it, I'm sorry I let you down? No, you want to hear that person saying, you beat this, you stepped over that little rock that you thought was a mountain, and now we're making moves, we're helping the world, we're definitely just talk to your future self.
Where can people find you? That was gold.
Isadora Franca is my Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter. I try to be on Twitter. I show up there like once every few months.
Hi, bye. Here's a retweet.
Yeah. I mean, my website is isadorafranca.com. And that's pretty much where you can find me. You can DM me there. We'll talk about life.
If you want to connect, I would encourage you, listen to the Dio. It's
and Spotify, Isadora Franca.
She's got a lot of things going on, guys. But find her on Spotify for her music. Check it out. Yeah. It's great music. More to come. Photography, series inquiries. I mean,
yeah, just hit me up.
Hit her up.
My Instagram is hit me up for any of your photo needs.
Love that. Well, Isa, thank you so much for coming by. We're still trying to figure this whole podcast thing out on my end, but it's an honor to celebrate friends and to kind of get to know your story and share it with those that are probably struggling at the moment or need encouragement in any type of way. You added so much value today and to my life, and thank you just for being willing.
Thank you so much, Zeke, for having me. Thank you for being this person that is constantly encouraging. Ever since day one I met you, encouraging. You're so hard on making sure that people know how successful they can be. You believe in people more than the average person. And you're much appreciated for that. There's big value with that, and I just appreciate you having me come out here and talk.
Thank you. Well, that's a wrap, guys. If you haven't yet, subscribe. We're gonna be on every platform: Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Thank you again. This is my In My Element podcast, and it's been a pleasure.